Unfortunately, the nature has been not too cooperative to us. Maybe that we have chosen that kind of a season to listen to a great speaker. However, first I must thank all of you. Despite your other inconveniences, you have been able to really turn out and make it even happening to us. Thanks to my predecessors who have been able to initiate these kind of programs so that we are in a position to interact with some of the entrepreneurs who have written successful stories and who are able to share their experiences, which becomes certainly an amount of compendium for our own referrals. In the process, thanks to KVR, who has the widest contact, both at the young and the old as the case may be, has been able to choose men and women of standing who have already established themselves and have been able to contribute to the society in different segments. Today we have Sridevi with us. In fact, I must apologize, I didn't know her earlier, but at the same time I had a couple of minutes of interaction with her, and it was a very interesting story. Of course, while KVR introducing her, he will also tell about the kind of activity that she has been able to pursue, which seems to be one of the innovative way of handling. But only thing is I could conclude immediately was that I wish I was younger by about 50 years ago when my children were growing up and we were looking around for that kind of facility. Unfortunately, it's too late, otherwise you can make one more attempt to make use of our facility. But certainly that is what is really needed today when both the men and the women are turning out. So some of those who are just joining us can also have the breakfast, sir, because we already ordered. So I think the same trend may be passing through many of our own colleagues who are in the same age group. That's what Mr. Vaidyanathan has been nodding, and therefore I could assume that we have not been the real beneficiaries of her services at the time when we needed it, but at least the younger generation will be able to make use of it. Having said that now, the whole intention is that it is not merely connected with the commercial subjects, even though the chambers are generally by and large assumed to have the role of only discussing about the commercial aspects and interact with the government in order to ensure as to how to bring about a relationship between the business and the government and the regulators or policy makers, as the case may be. But we have chosen to call up people from different fields, and some of them may not exactly relate to only to our own business or on a day-to-day basis what we have been handling. Some of the proposals are some of those which we would have never even imagined could fit in within the business framework, as the case may be earlier. About 2 decades ago, all of you will appreciate that healthcare was not taken as a business, but we have proved in this country, and more so in the state, that we can be the leaders in the healthcare. Take tourism. It was purely a monopoly of the government. And many people, tourism, what we meant is only ticket booking. Beyond that, we didn't imagine that tourism is such kind of a business which we can go to. We have proved in the last 2.5 decades that tourism is a viable business which can be looked at. Similarly, education was being looked at purely from the point of view of the social, meeting the social objective. But today we see education is one of the most paying, wonderful business. Business need not necessarily be with the profit motive, as long as it does provide certain amount of internal generation, which does help us in terms of multiplying the activity, strengthening the foundation. That's the most important one ultimately. That is what we want. That's where we create the social capital. Similarly, number of activities today have come. It is really mind-boggling. Some of us, and I very often when I go through this, I feel that we go, the clock turns back and we become younger by another 25 to 30 years so that, we could witness the kind of success stories that are happening around which were totally beyond our imagination. And here is a case where we are going to listen now, totally in a different, and more so, I happen to hear that she is from Harvard Business School, and therefore the kind of exposure, the experience, the backup data and information that she would have possessed will be something which is really unique, and I'm sure that all of us will be able to enjoy it. And certainly, many of us must appreciate, in any kind of a gathering of this nature, I'm always tempted to go back to some of our own, the good lessons or the information that is contained in our scriptures. There was one great Maharishi called Avastamba. Some of those who belong to that kind of the sick mind may understand. His name itself was Avastamba because he was hardly 4 feet. In those days, if you go to Jettiran, all the houses are built only with the pillars, and the pillars are not more than about 4.5 feet. 4.5 feet is the highest, 3.5 to 4 feet. Beyond that, nothing more than that. The intention of building the houses those days, or passing for a moment, was when you get in, the people are supposed to bow their head, which is not happening today, and that's why they put it as a part of the system in the community living that you are supposed to bow the heads again, with your elders, and that is why the reason when the roofing was always slanting towards that and keep the Avastamba. That Avastamba was one of the celebrated Rishis, and we wish we had longer life to learn and read the essence of this. Ultimately, after writing volumes and volumes, the last para that he concludes is, in case I have tried to bring out within my knowledge, within my experience, with my interaction with others, the way of society living and the way in which you have got to adjust yourself to the evolution that he tells them. By any chance, I have missed out certain thing which you find that there is anything new story about it, or a new circumstances that you face which you find it's slightly a crisis where you need to take a solution for it, please go to the lady of the house of that village. Please go to who governs on a day-to-day basis of our life. That is the ladies who preserve the knowledge, who have that kind of fund of experience. Whatever they share with you and they tell, that becomes the rule, that becomes the law. So that is the kind of pedestal in which we have celebrated our womanhood in this country. And I'm extremely happy that more and more young women are coming to the public life with very clear determination of contributing something which is totally unique, and they want to share their experience. And I don't want to repeat, it's not only in the business segment, as I told you, in several other segments they have been coming. What Mr. our Avastamba predicted, saying that it is a womanhood who, the fund of knowledge, only thing is when an opportunity does arise, they will be able to bring out more and more of this kind. And Sri Devi is one of the standing examples. You will hear more about her from Mr. Rajendran. I'm extremely happy that all of you were able to find time and then participate with us. Incidentally, I'm also making a small appeal to all of you. Whenever you find or come across men of that kind who have the fund of experience and who have the desire to share with us, please do not hesitate, bring it to our knowledge. We'll be too happy. It need not necessarily be at the monthly intervals. It can be even at the frequent intervals, as long as we are able to enrich ourselves by listening to them. Thank you very much.
Good morning to everybody. Thank you, President. He was feeling bad that, he's not in the age group, but, technologies are there anyway. Okay. So, see, a lot of people are asking, why you have brought the speaker, See, one of the reasons is, she has come from an institution which is Mecca of management education in the world, Having grown up, graduated from there, coming to India, and this childcare is a commodity, it's a commodity, you don't hear something, people are having a childcare as a business plan. In her case, she presented a business plan that was approved, and she got funding from Harvard alumni. This is also one of the few cases where they were funded. There are some uniqueness, the way she has put the model, why she has come to India, what she has been doing. See, about the business she will talk. I am always for a very brief introduction of the speaker. So that's the reason we have just brought her here, and then she is making the business process oriented. She is actually segmenting the business. She will go to a higher pedestal, so a lot of people has to emulate her. They may not be like her, but there will be this whole child care as an activity. Not only just tending the child, also enriching her mind will go up. That's the reason we have just called her. So probably like an alma mater, Boston is in the severe hurricane. Sandy is there. So we are also having the same effect today here. Anyway, that's a coincidence. So that's the reason we have, we have decided to fix up her. She will talk about that. I don't want to eat your time. So let us hear from her. Let us take the story. That's the reason she has been brought. Because we have been exposed to a lot of bigger business last year. We also wanted to start with a women entrepreneur. Not many women entrepreneurs are there in Chennai, which is a scalable model. We always look for a model which is scalable. At least 1 year down the line, you should see Ms. Sridevi and you should see that the business has grown. Now she has got 7 centers, maybe 10 or 15 centers. So with this introduction, I just leave the floor for the heroine of the day to take over. When I told that in the class that I have got Sridevi, some student asked, is an actress. I think she has become very old. Right? You'll have to forget about it, there is somebody else coming in. Okay? I just leave the floor, madam. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Rajendran, thank you, Mr. Subramaniam and Mr. Vora as well. It's very, very nice to be here today. It's pretty amazing that you were all here on a cold, rainy morning to listen to me, so it's very, very heartening. In fact, when Mr. Rajendran approached and invited me to speak in today's session, I really wondered what I could contribute to several experienced business leaders such as yourselves. Several of you are entrepreneurs, several of you are business leaders who've had way more experience than I have had in the industry. And I really wondered what I could share that might be of remote interest or value to you. But then I thought about my own days at Amelio, and I think, about the time I spent with children at the childcare centers that I run. And I feel like those are the times when I learn the most, when I just allow myself to be immersed by, the activities of children, when I just watch them play, when I watch them interact. The freshness, they may not know a lot, but just the freshness of their perspective, the freshness of their interaction, their bewilderment and excitement and just positivity to the world gives me a lot to learn from, and I hope you can learn very similarly from me, because I'm like this wide-eyed wonder child looking at entrepreneurship, with all the bells and whistles, and you're way more experienced than I am in the field. So let me start by telling you a little bit about Amelio. Amelio is India's first and premier on-site childcare service provider. So what we do is we create and manage childcare centers for companies so that women can stay close to their children and watch them grow. And they can bring their kids into the workplace and drop them off at the childcare center and pick them up when they go home. What this allows women to do is keep their maternity leave minimum so they can actually come back to work should they want to. And two, is allows them to work productively at the workplace without having to worry about their children, without having to worry about a pickup time, without having to worry about childcare arrangements. This is significant because if you look at the IT sector and if you look at the large emerging sectors like banking and insurance, a bulk of the exits that happen for women happen at the time when women have had children and they just are not able to handle childcare or their home and their work anymore. And this is the time when women have put in about 7 or 8 years at the workplace, when companies have invested a lot of time and training and money in growing them to actually start contributing as business leaders when they actually quit. So having a childcare center on site could be a win-win situation for both the employee and the employer, and that was the vision with which Amelio was started. Today we run 7 childcare centers across the city, and we open several more before the close of this financial year. We also plan to open in Hyderabad and Bangalore, and from there on go pan-India over the next couple of years. We are a funded organization, and we set ourselves up to the highest standards in quality in childcare and services. We adhere to what is called the NAEYC standards. NAEYC stands for NAEYC, which is the National Association for Education of Young Children. It is a North American independent body that accredits high quality childcare centers. So we pitted ourselves to those standards because there just weren't standards in India that we could adhere ourselves to. So we pitted ourselves to the highest possible standards. And today our centers operate in an extremely standardized, process-driven manner. Like Mr. Rajendran was saying, our teachers are extremely qualified, they are well-trained, and they go through continuous and rigorous teacher training processes so that they are constantly equipped to handle children. They're constantly working towards delivering better quality education and childcare to the children. Our centers are headed by competent business managers who are leaders from IT, marketing, various other functions and backgrounds, who have chosen to be in childcare because they believe in the idea and they believe in us doing something different, positive and meaningful to the community. And we work with companies such as Accenture, CTS, TCS, eBay, Infosys, and several other IT companies and non-IT majors as well. So I think we're poised for big growth, and we're poised to taking childcare to the next level in India and making a difference in working parents. But to get here today, it's been 4 years, and to get here today was not an easy ride. It has been a very exciting, fun ride, but it has not been easy by any stretch of imagination. I just want to go back to how it all started. So the idea of Amilio started when I started my career in advertising, and this was in the early 2000s, and I would see a lot of my senior colleagues just quit because they were unable to straddle work and home, and the pressure was just too intense, and there was just too many tugs pulling at them that they weren't able to work focused. And it just seemed to be such an easy idea to me at the time to have a childcare center at the workplace, because it seemed like women could then just do both. And to me, it always appeared that the reason it didn't happen was that it was just a bad idea. Because if it were a good idea, somebody would have done it. And somebody would have done it way better than me. So who was I to have this crazy notion in my head that I was going to change everything? So it was an idea, and it was parked in my head, and it just, seemed like something that was a cause of bewilderment for me. Several years later, I went into HBS, and Harvard Business School as a community encourages entrepreneurship. It almost pushes you to entrepreneurship, be it the community, the professors, the students, the student body. There are just so many activities and so many things that sort of encourage you to think about the idea. So just by virtue of being in that environment, I started thinking about this idea a little more. I started talking to my classmates and colleagues about it. And I was speaking, and in the first year we work as a section, so we work in a class, and in the second year we all divide into various courses that we just take. So then we all separate in the second year. So this is my first year classmate. We were just chatting first couple of months into school, and I shared this idea, and we made a promise at that time. We said, let's just enter the business plan contest, in the second year. It might just be an interesting thing to do. We don't know what might come out of it, but what the heck, let's do it. And then school happened, and HBS has an amazing way of cramming in 36 hours of work into a 18-hour work day. And they do this consistently every day for about 2 years. So if you don't burn out and you survive, then that's how you get out of the program. So school happened, courses happened, things were just going on, and we never really pursued this promise that we made to ourselves because we had recruiting, we had courses, all of that. Second year, actually more towards the business plan contest, we met back again and we said, look, this is something that we told ourselves we would do. When are we going to do this? And at that time, my husband, I was already married, my husband was in Hong Kong and I was in Boston. So it was the longest long-distance relationship one could ever have. Only in terms of time factor it worked out because it was exactly a 12-hour difference. But other than that, it was highly inconvenient. So I was dealing with a long-distance relationship. I would have to, I kind of traveled to Hong Kong every time we had a break. I was trying to recruit. I was trying to get banking offers in Hong Kong because I wanted to move to Hong Kong right after graduation. So I was working on job interviews, and my friend at that time, she was working on different things either. And before we knew it, the business plan contest was actually a week away. And we were sitting there on a Saturday afternoon. We were saying, look, this is it. We haven't even done anything about it. So I just said, let's forget it. I mean, we have so many other things going on. There's recruiting, it's final year, we have exams, we have projects, cases, there's just too many things going on. And my friend at that time said, look, what do we have to lose? I mean, we're going to graduate in any case, and this is not for credit. We weren't doing this for any exam results or marks or anything. This was just something that you could do. So she said, what is the worst that could come out of it? Let's just give it a shot. And so every day from that Saturday until the next Saturday, which was exactly a week, we would go through our entire day, which means courses, cases, preparation for the next day, recruiting, all of that. We would finish everything and we'd meet at the library at 10 p.m. and we would work the whole night until 5 a.m. We'd go to bed at 5 in the morning, wake up at 7 and go back into classes. We did this for about 6 days. By the end of the 5th day, we were walking around like zombies. We literally had to have toothpicks in our eyes to keep us awake, and we were literally like, we had to, sort of prop our heads up with something so that we wouldn't knock off in classes when the professor was saying something. But it was hard, and we still did it because we said it's just 5 days, we can do this. And that's one thing HPS taught us, is to really push ourselves to a point where it just gets impossible, but to continue pushing ourselves, and we did it. And then we entered the business plan contest. We were, I think, the only 2 people in the business plan contest who had eyes like crimson red from no sleep, but we presented anyway. And the way it works is like this. You go in and you present to an amphitheater of about 10 judges. They're all from venture capital and private equity funds who are all HPS alumni, and they'll evaluate your idea and decide whether it gets shortlisted for the contest or not. So we presented our idea and we said we were just thrilled that we did it. It wasn't something we had to do, but we did it anyway. So we were excited about having made the idea come at least to a business plan stage in a matter of 1 week. And one of the judges at the business plan contest seemed very excited about the idea. But when we stepped out after we'd made our presentation, we went out, he followed us outside and he said, are you guys serious about starting this venture? Because if you're serious, I'm serious about investing in you guys. And if there's one thing that I think Harvard Business School taught us, it is to say the right thing. And we had no idea what we were saying, but we said the right thing, which was, of course, yes. It's been our dream all our lives, which was wholly untrue at that point, by the way. So, and he said, okay, call me and meet me and let's, discuss this further. And he gave us his business card. And suddenly we were looking at a possibility that just never existed, even until the day before. It had just not crossed our minds that it might even be real. I had banking offers in Hong Kong, and my friend had, offers from the BlackBerry manufacturers, RIM in Canada, and here we were suddenly faced with the real possibility of moving back to India to start a business, which just didn't cross our minds earlier on. So that, to me, when I recollect this incident, a lot of people say that I'm very, very lucky, that I got really lucky, and yes, I think I did get lucky at that point, because that's the point at which the whole plan to start Emilio unfolded, and that's how we moved back with funding to come to India and start Emilio. So yes, I do believe that I was lucky, but I think I was lucky because luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And that is a lesson that I think I've taken from then till today, in no matter everything that I have done. Every time I work with my colleagues on a project, I ask them to give it their 100% and just be out there, and you never know what you might find, because sometimes it just happens, an opportunity just knocks on your door, but if you're not prepared to seize the opportunity, you're just going to consider yourself having missed out on the opportunity because you just weren't prepared enough to seize it. So that is my lesson to myself, to always be prepared and to always be ready to face an opportunity, because yes, opportunity does knock on your door, but you need to be ready to take the opportunity and roll with it. And that means you just need to know what you want to do, and you need to be ready to seize it. And that means you have to have done the hard work prior to. So we moved back to India. It was all great. We got our funding. It seemed really exciting. We had seed capital. We were moving to India. We were starting a company. Very exciting. And within 3 weeks of moving to India, the reality of it all sunk in. Like, we were going racing in a Ferrari F1 and sudden screeching, grinding halt because something stopped along the way. The reality of business started to hit. Everything was hard. Finding a place was hard. Buying things was hard. You never knew that in the US. It was so easy to go and pick up something. But here it wasn't that simple, and I'm sure a lot of you understand when I say, what I'm saying. Sourcing things for the business was hard, finding people was hard. Most of all, I think finding people was one of the biggest challenges we've had. We interviewed numerous candidates. We needed a core team to start Amelio because we realized early on that we couldn't do this alone. We needed to have a good team in place, a team that believed in the idea for us to come together and really take this to the next level. So we needed to have smart, capable people who also were passionate about the idea. So we interviewed several people, a lot of them very smart, capable, but something was missing, and I just didn't know. I mean, we hired them anyway because, we needed people into the business, but something was amiss and I just wasn't sure what it was. I tried very hard to place my finger on it, and, this went on for a little bit until one day, one of my HR colleagues lined up this person who was a very senior management professional. She'd worked in large ITs in, headed corporate communications, and she just didn't belong at Amelio. I didn't even know why she was interviewing with us, really. I mean, she could have been in any other place. But she decided to come in for an interview, and we just thought we'd give it a shot, and she came in. In our company, if you come in, it's a really small office, our corporate office. Our centers are all very lavish, our managers have great rooms, but at the office, if you see, I have like a little 2x2 cubicle. That's really how we operate at the corporate office. And we all do everything. So I'm a receptionist at one point, I deliver tea and coffee to my colleagues at another, and that's just how we work. So I was, this candidate was waiting at the reception, and I went by. I was happening to walk past, and I said, "Hi, hello, can I get you anything?" And she said no, she was fine, and I asked her to just help herself with a bunch of books that we have. We have a little library where we have all our curriculum books and research materials that we'd used to really, set up our curriculum and various other processes. So I asked her to read that, and I would be with her in a bit, and then she came in and met me. And, we did the usual, what do you do, what do I do, all of that. And then later, after I realized that she was really interested in the job, I asked her why. Why are you even interested in Amelio? You could be doing so many other things. Why Amelio? And at that point, she said something that sticks with me till today. And she said, what really strikes me is what an amazing idea you guys are onto. You're on to making a big difference in the lives of people. I was a young mother, I was a working professional, and I had such a hard time raising 2 young kids and working. And I feel like my growth has slowed down a lot more, and I could be way farther ahead if I had, a service like you guys. And you guys are onto something big, and I want to be part of that dream. I want to be part of that vision. I want to take this vision, I want to move it up. And that's when it struck me that the difference between hiring people who work for you and hiring people that can actually take your company to the next level is having people that 100% buy into your vision, that look at businesses, that look at their job through your vision, and they look at things from a larger goal-oriented perspective, that they look and feel as though they are really contributing and making a difference. If someone has to wake up at 6:30 in the morning, cook breakfast, cook lunch, pack their kids off to school, walk in the slush, wait in the rain for 45 minutes, take a really overcrowded bus, jump off the bus stop, walk into the office, and then start their work day, something has to be incredibly meaningful for them to come in. Or the point when they come in is when they check out, because they've had such a busy morning up until then, they've come in to just take a break the rest of the day. So it's really important that we as business leaders understand just how important the vision is. And that is the job, I think, that entrepreneurs and business leaders are in the business of providing, is an exciting vision, an exciting goal that then people can want to be a part of and do their very best to be part of that vision and that goal. For us, that vision is making a difference in the lives of working women, to make it possible for working women to have careers. And every single person in my organization believes and breathes in that vision. And if they don't breathe in that vision, they don't belong at Amelio. It's as simple as that. So whether it's an accounts person or whether it's an HR person, it's extremely important that they know that they're working towards a larger goal. And that's when I think everybody comes together, and this is not my job and that is not my job does not come into play at all. Everyone works together and says, this has to be done because we're making a difference. What we do is meaningful. I can tell you, in my own experience in the last 4 years as an entrepreneur, there have been several times when I've been disillusioned, when I've been dejected, and I've questioned myself and I wondered whether this is even meaningful and makes sense. So while it's all great to say vision and goal and be excited, we can't always have that even for ourselves. We need a fuel. But I can tell you from my personal experience that the best fuel that one can have to keep our own vision and goals going, especially as entrepreneurs, is to have constant contact with our customers. I think that to me is key. There came a point in my own growth at Amelio where I had hired a large enough team that I didn't have to interface with parents on an everyday basis. I used to earlier on when we were still small and I had to do everything on my own. But soon we grew to a point where I didn't have to meet parents. And somehow I just thought to myself erroneously that this was a great sign of growth and success, that I just didn't have to meet my customers every day. How cool was that? That I had people to do that job for me. Fortunately for me, very quickly I realized that that was the pulse I had to keep my vision going. So today I still make sure that I meet my parents, that I chat with them and I have a continued relationship with them, even though they don't have anything to ask me or say to me. I make sure that I'm in contact with my customers and my parents. And the reason that that's important is that out of every 10 parents that I would meet, 7 parents would give me the fuel. They would tell me how great Amelio is. They would tell me how they got a promotion at work because, they just showed up. They were at work. They didn't quit. And how they were moving on to something bigger, a larger opportunity, how Amelio is great. The child is speaking English so much better, she's using language so much better, and all of those things. And these are the fuel that you need to keep growing and, giving your vision to your, your team and, having people buy into that vision, because cumulatively, you're making that difference to parents. 3 out of 10 parents will give you that feedback, that all-important, crucial feedback that is important for you to grow. They give you feedback about something that you could do better, something that could change, and you need that, trust me. If you have to constantly improve, you have to keep your eyes and ears open for constant feedback and change. And that can come only top-down. And out of maybe 50 parents that we meet, 1 parent may gripe, may crib, may give you something that is not really meaningful, but is just complaints because that's the kind of personalities they are. You can choose to take it and make it better, your company, or you can choose to leave it because it brings your own morale down. That's your choice to make. But to be afraid of such criticism because of which you shut your customers out is what we lose out when we lose out the vision, and that brings down the entire DNA of the company to become mercenary, to become just about buying and selling and lack of a larger purpose. Every business has started because there was a bigger purpose. Making money was not the purpose of any business. It was because people just wanted to do something. And that purpose needs to permeate through every layer in the company down to the youngest person, because not everyone can be entrepreneurs. But trust me, everyone wants to work for a cause. Everyone wants to be part of something big. And as entrepreneurs, you can give them that. And that is the biggest value that you can generate as entrepreneurs. So when I was at HPS, one of the key things that we used to learn in entrepreneurship was that 95% of all businesses, all startups, would change or remodel their business idea within a year after starting up. And when my colleague and I, we were working on this business idea, we were just certain that we were the 5%. We were just sure about that. How could it be otherwise? I mean, it was India, it was 2007, IT was booming, people were, trading offers, it was just the time for the employee. I mean, so, on-site childcare had to work. But in less than a year, it all changed. In August 2008, when we moved back to India, things were entirely different. The business scenario was very different. It was the Greater Depression, as we called it. companies were looking at retrenching and laying off, least of all retention and hiring and all of those wonderful things. They were looking very least at gender diversity. These were not things that they had on their mind at all. So when we went and pitched on-site childcare to the IT majors whom we had even earlier spoken to and they expressed interest, this time they were interested, but just that the timelines were going to be very, very different. So we knew very quickly that, well, we had come in with a great idea, we had come in with all the funding, we'd come in wanting to start, but here we were with a very real possibility that things just weren't going to take off in the way that we wanted to. Now we had three options. One, just quit, while things were still okay and we still had our offers kind of lukewarm somewhere else, so we could run back to Hong Kong and take up that job offer, or we could wait it out, which means bootstrap, not spend too much money, just somehow try to wait it out, hope that there will be a first conversion of a company somewhere. Or three, in that process of waiting it out, do something slightly different. We chose the latter approach. We chose to do something different. We chose to open our own standalone center, which was a high investment model. We hadn't planned to have investment going into our centers because the idea was that companies would invest in our centers because they were a partnership model. So we put in the money anyway, we put in the investment. We started a standalone center about 8 months after we started the company. It did really well in terms of us learning all those things that we needed to. Finally, we had a real business with which we could learn. We could really learn about teachers. We got our business off the table and off a strategy sort of PPT mode into real working mode. So we knew what the real challenges were when we hired teachers. We knew what the real challenges were when we got in children, when we got in parents, what parents' expectations were. This business suddenly became real because we made a slight tweak to our model and we were willing to take that little plunge of faith. And because we did that, we made mistakes. We obviously learned from a lot of those mistakes. But it also opened out several opportunities for us. We had a residential township approach us and say, could you start one inside our own, our own residential township? So suddenly, we had the opportunity to open a residential township even thought of before because we were fixated on on-site childcare services for companies, within company campuses. So suddenly on-site became residential townships and it worked really well. It was actually a huge success that we had never imagined it to be. And once we did that, we actually got the opportunity to go into an office park where we paid the rent, but the number of companies within an office park really made things viable for us. Today, out of the 7 centers, we have a bulk of our centers operate within the residential townships and office park models. But it works. It's a profitable model. It's a model where we've shown scale. It's a model where we've shown capacity. It's a model where we've shown quick ramp up. So it has worked. But we could not have gotten there if we had either given up or if we had been stubborn in our heels and said, no, this is what we had started off to do. We had started off trying to do on-site childcare and this is all that we will do. So I think my lesson here has been that the goal has to be unshakable. And I don't think you should give up for the wrong reasons. And the wrong reasons are it's too difficult, it's too tough, it's too challenging. Everything is tough, everything is challenging, or everything is easy if you want to put it that way. It's like they say about having a baby, there's never a wrong time just like there's never a right time. So everything is a challenge, everything is a problem. And so it's very important for us to figure out how to overcome that challenge and not give up too soon, not give up too easily. And as an entrepreneur, I think I took the plunge knowing fully well that I was going into an area that had never been done before. I was in on-site childcare. I got into an area where I was redefining childcare. I was going to make lives easier for working women. No one said that was going to be easy. It would have been a cop-out for me to say, okay, the first 2 companies aren't signing on, so I'm just going to pack up and do something else. And that, I think, is the true test of an entrepreneur, is to face those challenges head-on and say, and keep your vision stuck, and keep your goal stuck to where you want to go and go right at it and forget about all the other challenges and work towards meeting it. But you can't do it alone, so you need to have a great team with you. So this is my story. Okay. We have 500 plus children across the 7 centers.
What is the actual business
operating high-quality childcare centers. In India, if you notice, high-quality childcare centers are very, very few and far between because there are no standards. And between rent and labor, the cost of people, all your margins get eroded. So most often what people do is they pay the rent and the labor because they can't afford it, but they'll scrimp on labor. So where you need one teacher for every 6 children, they'll put in 15 kids for one teacher, and they kind of work on the ratios that way. 2 is they also sort of bring down the infrastructure as much as possible. So minimize the need for tables or chairs or classroom equipment, because those are all savings in some senses. Our model is to bring in a high quality standardized childcare offering, which really is what you see in the US or in Europe. Bring that here, and that means it will be expensive. But the way we're able to bring down those costs to a consumer is by partnering with a company. So a company sort of takes on some part of the rental real estate or some part of the infrastructure costs, and therefore those benefits get passed back onto a parent. So what was earlier unaffordable high quality care is suddenly made affordable because of partnerships with the company.
Yeah, probably one of the questions, you have just touched upon getting human resources a major problem. Who are passionate about child care and also inculcating a lot of things into the minds of the kids. Going ahead, when you just scale it up, when you just move on to a larger number of centers, how do you feel that may be an impediment, and if at all there, how do you overcome?
That's a great question, but I think what we are noticing today is a change in the mindset of people towards education. Earlier on, at least in the early 2000s, a teacher would have only one opportunity, and that was do a B.Ed and get into a school and start her career as a teacher and end her career as a teacher. The best promotion she might get is from grade 1 to grade 7, possibly, right, throughout her lifetime. Today, that's not the case. There are so many preschools, there are so many early learning centers that are coming up that require a different set of skills, that don't need a B.Ed, that need a degree in early childhood care and education, that need a whole different set of skill sets, that need different stimuli, that people are slowly waking up to that fact and saying, hey, I think I want to do that. I want to be in education, but I want to focus in young children, or I want to focus on the older children. So they're able to specialize a bit more. And just people being open to that possibility is great for us, because when people are open to the possibility of working with very young children, what we are really looking to do is take those people and train them ourselves. So we have a rudimentary, first cut teacher training module now, which works for 1 year. But our goal is over the next 1 year to sort of standardize it, to get it affiliated, accredited, and make this like a diploma in early childhood care and education, so that people can actually use that degree as a way to sort of better their career opportunities even. And I see that going as a huge possibility over the next sort of 5 to 10 years, because if you look at the US, early childhood care and education in itself is a line of education. So if you are a center director, you could sort of make money off being center director, but you also need a different set of education. You need to know how to handle parents, you need to know how to handle children, you need to know what are the safety precautions to take. So it's a whole different education curriculum that is required, and syllabus that is required to teach them. So I see a large opportunity in that area for us.
You said some of your clients are Accenture, Infosys, eBay. My question is, suppose Sridevi has not done in hardware. Suppose you have done something here. Is it possible to sell this?
Harder. Harder.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree. It is harder. But I think the more important thing is to know the vision, to have a clear, passion towards the vision, because at the end of the day, Accenture or eBay is going to give me a meeting maybe because they're intrigued by a Harvard Business School graduate. But if I don't have value for them, they're going to send me off after a very nice meeting where they've got value from me, and I go back empty-handed, and I go back with nothing for the company. So they need to have gotten value for them to even explore this a little bit. So the HPS may be a foot in the door, but nothing beyond that. And if the foot in the door
itself is difficult if I am here.
Maybe, but I think, knocking on enough doors could get you a foot in the door. So, you know.
Yeah, you have been doing this program for in big companies. But in India, we have got maximum number of people who are working, who are middle or upper middle class people working in the company, husband and wife. And they do not work in Infosys or Wipro and other things. For those type of people, how are you going to have your setup so that they can give? Say, I have got my son and daughter-in-law. Both are professionals. One is a professor, another is a businessman, and we have got a grandson. We have to take care of him. Well, today, grandmother is taking care and all. But what happens to the people who are in a single family, and how to them you are going to give your services?
So that really is my goal, Mr. Vora, is that every institution sees the need and the benefit in allocating a little space for a childcare service, because all that it takes is a small space. It takes a little space to retain good people, to retain good talent, and to grow your team. We have opportunities from small businesses, small interior design firms, where there are 40 women working, and there is a need for childcare for 10 children, and we are happy to operate there, because the founder of that interior design firm feels that these 50 women are what makes his firm go every day, and losing even one or two of them is going to set him back hugely. And so he will do what it takes to ensure that they have good quality childcare and they are comfortable and they are happy to work in his firm. So that is really the kind of vision that I'm hoping that everybody can see, whether it's hospitals or colleges or institutions. In the US, for instance, every university has a childcare center for their PhD students or for their postgraduate students to drop their kids off and go to study and come back and pick up the child. Hospitals have childcare centers. Small businesses feel the need more for childcare centers than large companies, because large companies have deep pockets. They can pay you off, whereas small companies can't afford to do that. So you need to offer perquisites like this that encourage people to say, wow, this is great. This is a company that looks at things differently. So I may not be making as much money, but this company works for me. So I'm going to join and work in this team. So, I think the opportunity is bigger for non-IT. But that is going to take a while, because at the end of the day, the trends are started when a few key people make those right noises. And once that happens, everyone starts looking at it. It kind of goes viral. And I'm hoping that, this idea will go viral too, and soon, every woman will want to continue working, because it's just not a big deal.
The simple reason is, the apparel industries, they have maximum number of women entrepreneurs who work on the machines and does the job. And each factory have got 200, 300 people. But they cannot afford to pay money. And especially those type of people require this thing. Similarly, other industries where women requires entrepreneurs, staff are more. For them, it requires these things very essentially.
Absolutely.
To change, you see, when Saravana Bhavan was opening, people were thinking that now nobody wants to go to Udupi, they go to Saravana Bhavan. Over a period of time, it changes. All these 7 centers is all customer specific, and it's located in that, or
Two of us.
customer specific.
By your institutions, branches, do they have any clearances from the government?
Which is the unfortunate thing, is that these are centers for very, very young children, and there is no regulation and no standardization and no sort of clearances that governments need.
She's better off, till the clearances comes in. Then either she has to stand in the corporate of Chennai.
Actually not. I'm happy to have these clearances, because it weeds out the, those people who operate poorly and charge a lower fee, and it actually entices parents in some senses, because all they think about is, okay, I'm saving a little bit of money and I can use that to something else. So it's actually wrong not to have regulation, and I'm hoping that it will come through.
Will come. Yes.
Ma'am, you have cradle from the cradle age or from the
From 6
young
months.
age? Only from 6 months. What do you do for the nursing or for the any doctors are attached to you, or?
Yes, we have affiliations with hospitals close by. We also have doctors that we partnered with. We have a team of consultant doctors who who are always on our call. Apart from that, in some key centers, we also have pediatric nurses in our centers.
You feel that franchisee model also will work out in your field?
No, that's my personal opinion, is that I don't think franchising works for child care and early education as such. I think India has a long way to go, only because I think we are not a very process-driven people as such. We don't really follow rules very well. And when you're in a franchise operation, you need to take something remotely and you need to follow a system for it to work. And if you decide to wing it, the whole franchise system fails. And I think in India, we at this point need to have direct control over everything we manage, direct sort of implications, good and bad, for remote management for things to work. So I don't believe we're going to be franchising for a long time to come.
Yeah.
How do you think this requirement of this country will be met for the masses?
I think this is an idea for the masses, and I think it can be met when businesses see value in this idea too. And I think that will happen when businesses see the need for more women entering the workplace. Because I think IT is very healthy in that it has a near 30% participation of women in the workforce. But if you look at several other sectors, the participation of women is is far lower. It's more in the region of 15%, 10 to 15% is what I would say. And I think participation of women in the workforce is really important because it brings in gender diversity, it brings in diversity of thought, it brings in a whole different set of skill sets that are needed for a business to grow. And once businesses start looking at the need for having more women, and they start making the investments in childcare, I think this will be a business for the masses. And I also think that there is a huge increase in the number of preschool chains in the country today. And I see that also sort of consolidating over the next sort of 3 to 5 years, where sort of comes into a larger player. There will be regulation, like Mr. Rajendra said, it is bound to happen. There will be regulation coming up soon. Hopefully there will also be mandates that require companies to have childcare centers that are well operated, and so that will change, that will make this work.
My point is the type of requirement this country would have, maybe you are operating at certain level. Is it possible that the cost of the services we should provide today can be brought, let us say 25% or 20% in the next 2-3 years, so you can go down to those people for whom also it can become affordable? Since when we talk about very high quality and all these things, it could mean sophisticated infrastructure, but a child may not need all that.
Right. I think that is the fundamental difference, is that children need safe places to grow. And safety, unfortunately, comes at a premium in India. People are willing to compromise on safety by not providing enough things and making safety look like a luxury, when safety is a primary basic requirement. And what we are trying to do is showcase to people that the kind of standards of quality that we have is important and is necessary for children to function, for children to grow, for children to enjoy and learn for life. There is a possibility where these things can be watered down, but there is also a certain comfort level that an entrepreneur has. For me, as a parent of a young child, I have an 18-month-old baby. This is the standard that I would be comfortable with leaving my own child. And I think as entrepreneurs, we need to stay true to what we feel is the need. And what I think is not good quality, I will not offer. So that's really where I would draw the line. So even if it means bringing it down 25%, I'm not comfortable doing that, because that would mean watering down the quality.
No, sorry, my point was only to know whether it's
I
going to
think,
be like a social...
I think after this meeting is over, one question you had.
So I had similar question with ma'am, as like you were saying that you want to expand to Hyderabad and Bangalore. So are you planning to do it yourself or franchising, like ma'am already asked?
I think we would have to do it ourselves.
And another thing is, like when you get new people, when you talk to new organizations or new parents, so are you relying only on word of mouth, or is it something extra you're doing to spread awareness, or maybe particular advertisements? Because I've never come across anything in newspapers as such.
So the primary way in which we have reached out is they pointed out, is reaching customers one-on-one. So going through companies, meeting companies, lobbying within companies. So we have very targeted marketing efforts. Also because we're a startup, we have to be very conscious about where every single rupee is spent. So we can't afford, large above-the-line activities that allow us, large sort of presences. So we have to make sure that every single rupee that we spend is, spent on reaching out to a potential customer. So we kind of use word of mouth largely. We use companies, we use company resources. So we partner with companies, and company HR sort of circulates emails. We operate stalls within companies, and we also are present in a lot of industry bodies like NASSCOM and CII, and we try to work through companies in those forums.
What is the rough cost per child, ma'am?
I'm sorry?
What is the rough cost per child?
The cost per child varies, and you can obviously get that information off the center.
Okay.
Do you pay for the facilities or the companies offer you?
I'm sorry?
Do you pay for the facilities or the companies offer you free space?
It depends, right? Which is why I said ours is more like a sliding scale model. If the cost of our service is X, depending on the extent of benefits that a company provides us, whether it is rent or some percentage of rent, it comes down proportionately. So if you look at our standalone centers, they cost what they do because the entire cost of operations is borne by us. But if you go to one of our on-site or near-site centers, it would be cheaper just because someone else has shared the cost of the service and we're passing that on to a parent.
Ma'am, has there been any instance where you've been let down by a company, say they don't want it on site, but the parents of a standalone center have pushed the company saying that we want it? It's the other way around, not through the company to the parents, but from the parents.
It happens most of the time. Most of the time what happens is the company says, this may not be a great time to do something. We'll push it to the next budget. They're trying to sort of buy time, and the parents sort of mobilize their resources and they say, no, listen, we need this. And this is a great service provider, let's do this. And then it's with the parent push that we've actually been able to even get to a certain stage. So yes, that happens, and we sort of use the help of our parents a lot because they feel happy with a service like this, and they feel the need for other people to share in these benefits as well.
One question. As you pointed out earlier, there are other players as well in the same place. How do you plan yourself to distinguish yourself, differentiate yourself?
Like I said, we are a high-quality childcare service provider, and we adhere ourselves to what we call the NACI standard, which is a North American standard for operating high-quality childcare centers. So if you look at our children ratios, children-to-teacher ratios, you look at the qualifications of our teachers, if you look at the way our centers are structured, just our processes and management systems, it would be entirely different. How that translates to a parent is when a parent walks in, he can immediately tell the difference because the centers are run much more efficiently. There is a very capable, strong person running the center, so a parent feels comforted by the fact that, okay, I know that my child is going to be safe, and there are competent people caring for my child while I'm away. So a parent sees the benefits of all the background work that has gone into making our centers different.
Thank you.
Greetings and good morning to you one and all. It is my pleasant duty to thank you for making this program successful. Most of the people, entrepreneurs, venture to start on a business path which is already proven, and they work on it and then they become successful. But here is a person who has gone on to a new path. She is making a path for others to follow her. I congratulate her and wish her every success. She explained her business plans, what are the problems she has faced, how she is doing, and what she is planning to do further. As a father of a professional, where we have been facing to take care of our grandchild. At that time I know what are the problems people can face, and the entrepreneur services, what she is planning to give, is going to help people very much. And I thank her and I congratulate her for her good program. I thank member of the chamber who, due to inclement climate also, they have been here to hear and taking part, not only just here, but they have been taking part in this deliberation. For that I thank them very much. I also thank chamber staff who have been putting very good effort, and it is their effort which is bringing results. I acknowledge their services and compliment them. I also thank hotel management for sumptuous food and good arrangement. Thank you. Jai Hind.